It is 8:30 on Tuesday morning, December 6th, 2022. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Supervisors of St. Croix County. And we're going to begin with our invocation on Larry's side. So, Larry.
Good morning. Let's pray, please. Lord, is this group that you've ordained to provide leadership and service in this county, deliberate the matters before them. We ask that you'd grant them wisdom. We ask that you'd grant them humility, the ability to speak with clarity and to understand one another, seeking the good of all rather than few. Grant courage where needed, and lead them in such a way that the resources that have been entrusted them are used wisely for the good of all. We thank you for St. Croix County, and I pray your blessing upon it. These leaders and those who serve in law enforcement, in the courts and human services, those who keep our roads clean and safe, and all the different matters that come to play in the complexities of a county such as this. I pray your blessing on it. And I ask that you would help this group now to serve and to lead with integrity, that this county may move to greater health. We ask this in your bounty and your kindness for all. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For our roll call, know that our technology is working again. Thank you. And apparently we have an interest or a topic on our agenda today with a lot of public interest. So we do have a lot of public comment for tonight. But the judges had requested that we move up their department report, which typically would have been at the end of the agenda earlier, so that I'm sure they have a lot of pressing business that they need to take care of. So we're going to actually do their department report now, and followed by public comment.
Good morning. And first, I really appreciate the accommodation given our calendars. On behalf of my colleagues, Judges Vlack, Nordstrand, and Waterman, I'm always pleased to provide what I call the State of the Judiciary annual report. As a third branch of government, I think you all appreciate that the courts enjoy a very unique relationship with the county. In St. Croix County, that relationship is strong and premised on what I characterize mutual respect between this body and the courts. All of us recognize our common goal and our objectives, which is to serve the public and fulfill our constitutional and statutory obligations. So at the outset, I say thank you, and I pledge our continued cooperation and partnership as we move forward. As I mentioned during my introduction, I'm privileged to serve with 3 exceptional judges, 2 excellent commissioners, a phenomenal clerk of courts, an up-and-coming registered and probate juvenile clerk, an innovative CJCC coordinator, and an incredible support staff who are outstanding public servants and professionals. We have a shared vision, and that shared vision has helped us weather the challenges that were presented by COVID, as well as the challenges that come with growing caseloads and shrinking personnel resources. Certain case types have shown significant increases this past year, serious felonies, in child protection cases have had dramatic increases. And as might be expected with the continued growth of the county, our caseloads continue to grow. The number of children in out-of-home placement is at record levels. We are also facing personnel challenges. Filling vacancies in the clerk of court's office is an ongoing problem. Replacing and retiring court reporters with qualified candidates has become a significant concern. Not to mention unfilled vacancies in the district attorney's office, as well as the public defender's office, which has a direct and immediate impact on the courts and our operations. Finally, finding attorneys who will represent low-income defendants and parents in child protection cases is becoming almost impossible. However, in spite of those challenges, the courts have continued to honor our mission statement, which is to provide efficient, effective, and expeditious administration of justice and ensuring equal access to our court services. We're also continuing to partner with the county on our space needs. As you know, after being in this building for 30 years, we've outgrown our space. As some of you may recall, when this building was built, we had 2 judges and a part-time family court commissioner who did not office in this building. As a result, the building was designed to accommodate a 100% increase in court staff, and 30 years later, here we are. We have outgrown our space, and as our caseloads increase, I think it's realistic to think that St. Croix County may be in line for a 5th judge in the foreseeable future. But that only happens if we have the physical space available to accommodate that additional judge. So we're poised to meet that demand by the passage of the bonding, and we are working with the building committee, the architects, as well as county administration to make sure that our spaces are functional but also secure. I think you all know that under our current design, 3 of our court officials can only hear in custody in persons by having them transported through public hallways. With this new addition, we will have 8 court spaces that will all have access to the jail directly, providing security for the public, for the defendants, attorneys, and others in the system. The courts have also implemented scheduling changes, which we're hopeful will meet the growing demands on our calendars, as well as shrinking personnel resources. And we're now using what we call block scheduling. So if you come up to the 2nd floor on any given Thursday morning, we are calling 40 to 70 cases in a span of about an hour and a half. That permits us to consolidate the district attorney's time, public defender's time, clerk of court's time in a concentrated time block. And thus far, it's paying dividends, and we are seeing very good results in terms of case processing. You'll hear from treatment court and domestic violence court at the Justice Support Services report next month, so I'm not going to get into that area. On the financial front, I believe the courts continue to be good stewards of the county's resources. As you know, my salary, the judge's salaries, court reporter salaries, and benefits are all paid by the state. The state also provides the computers, IT support, as well as printers. All other personnel and operational expenses of the courts are then funded by the county. And the county does receive what I'll characterize as a very modest circuit court support grant from the state. We also receive reimbursement for some of our guardian ad litem expenses, as well as our court interpreter expenses. And through the diligent efforts of Christy Severson and her staff, we have been very successful in collecting court costs, fines, fees, and attorneys' reimbursement. To put this in perspective, I always share with you the percentage that the courts take of the budget, both at the state and local level. In the state budget, the 3rd branch, and I'd remind you we're supposed to be a co-equal branch, receives 45/100% of the total state budget. So for every $100 in the state budget, the courts get 45 cents. The other $99.55 goes to support the legislative and executive branches. In St. Croix County, we receive approximately 3% of the county's budget. However, that said, the county has always been receptive to our needs, and respectful of our demonstrated expenses. Finally, as you know, we started CASA this past year, which has been an incredible program, and we really appreciate the county's support. The program's up and running and providing great support to kids who are placed out of home, which now exceeds about 100 children out of home in St. Croix County. The CASA advocates are trained in providing insight and information to the courts, which has been extremely valuable to us. They're in those homes every week for at least an hour spending time with these kids. They write comprehensive reports and provide great information, which helps us then form what we should do next. And as I would remind all of us, all it takes is one caring adult for a child to be successful. And then finally, I will end my comments as I started them by thanking you for your support and our continued partnership. And as I offer every 2 years when I swear in new county boards, if you ever want to come up and do a judicial ride-along, any one of us would welcome you. It provides a bird's eye view for what we do, and we would, again, welcome your presence. That completes my formal remarks. If anyone has questions or comments, I'd certainly entertain them.
Supervisor Fiedler?
Good morning, Judge. It's always a pleasure to work with you. We see the judge and his colleagues every month in our Public Protection Judiciary Committee meeting and always have very, very good discussions. But at our last meeting, Judge, you pointed out something that's on the horizon relative to court-appointed attorneys. Could you just share that issue with the board? Because as you say, it may come before us, maybe in the spring, maybe the summer, and it's coming up fast. Thank you.
Thank you. As I shared, we have right now a significant personnel problem in the public defender's office. They're down 3 staff attorneys in that office. They serve 4 counties, and so in St. Croix County, instead of having 4 attorneys assigned, we have 3. Of those 3 attorneys, only 1 is certified to do serious felonies. And so we have a significant problem in terms of finding attorneys who will represent indigent defendants. Many of those defendants are in jail. And there is case law that says that if the public defender is unable to appoint an attorney in a timely manner, the court must appoint. And that appointment comes through the county. And that appointment is paid by the county. The problem is that there's no means for the county then to recoup those same dollars from the public defender for what would have been generally a public defender appointment. And so I mentioned that at public protection. I'm not taking a position. That's a policy issue. But it is something, again, that's going to impact the county because we have this growing number of people who are entitled to representation, who the public defender cannot find attorneys for, who the courts are going to have to start appointing, and that expense will be borne by the county without the ability currently for you to seek any recoupment from the public defender. The best example is a case I tried a few months ago where it was in excess of $30,000 that the county had to pay for an attorney who was appointed for an indigent defendant who we could not find a public defender for. And that is the good case scenario in terms of what that expense could be. Thank you all so much, and I'm going back to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Steve Dunlap. I'm your family court commissioner here in St. Croix County. And I want to report that all our parents are getting along fabulously. They have no problem where the placement of their children or paying child support. And so, it's a good day. On the other hand, as family court commissioner, I am the director of family services, and when parents can't come to an agreement as to the placement of their children and other issues, and it does happen on occasion, what we first do is send them to mediation. And we have a mediation center staffed in Baldwin, and she is very successful. This past year, we have referred almost 150 parents, 150 families to mediation. And I do that by an order that requires them to go to mediation and work out their problems before they come to court. If they can't work it out in mediation, then the next step is to appoint a guardian ad litem for that family, for the children's best interest. And this past year, I've appointed almost 50 guardian ad litems in St. Croix County. And the guardian ad litems are trained attorneys. In Wisconsin, they have to be an attorney so that they can go to court and represent the best interest of the children. And we have several good guardian ad litems that we use and appoint in St. Croix County. Some of the guardian ad litems that we appoint are outside of St. Croix County, but they do a fabulous job in helping the court decide what's in the best interest of the children. That's their job as a guardian ad litem. So I just wanted to give you a basic overview of that side of what I do, as far as in addition to the determination of child support, the custody, placement, property division before they go to court. I do all that. And I want to thank you as the board for the support that you have given to my office. It's unbelievable the amount of public contact that my assistant Brenda goes through, and she just does a tremendous job. But without your support, that wouldn't be possible. So I want to thank you as the board, and again, as Judge Needham has always said, you're welcome to come up and sit in on a family case and enjoy the experience that we take care of. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Register and probate.
Good morning, supervisors. I'm Rebecca Rowan, the Register and Probate and Clerk of Juvenile Court for St. Croix County. You have my report included in your agenda, so I will be brief. Our office handles 10 different case types and functions like a hybrid of the Clerk of Court's office and the judicial assistants. We do all of our own case management. We have strict confidentiality and strict case deadlines. A lot of what we handle comes in on an emergency basis. I'm lucky to have two talented deputies, Sarah Lucken and Deb Schwiezo, that truly care about their jobs and work hard every day. As an office of 3, we are small but mighty. I thought you'd be interested in a few statistics. I ran some numbers yesterday. So for 2022 so far, we've had 64 cases involving an emergency detention or a mental commitment, 116 temporary physical custody matters. That's when a child or children are removed from their home by the child protection social workers. Those resulted in 112 child in need of protection or services cases. We have had 50 new adult guardianships, and we also have 88 adult wards that are under protective placement, and we review those with a guardian ad litem before the court commissioner annually. Every year, we also mail out and process over 475 annual reports and accounts that go out to our guardians, and we ensure those accounts balance to the penny. Following in the shadow of Erica Nelson, who retired as the Register and Probate after serving for 25 years, has at times been challenging. However, the judges along with Commissioner Heckman, have given me welcome guidance, and the Clerk of Court, Christy Severson, and Child Support Administrator Lisa Plunkett have been tremendous mentors. Providing excellent and equitable customer service to all court users and partner departments is my top priority, and I consider it a privilege to serve my community in this role. And thank you. Do you have any questions? I practiced.
Any questions? Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Okay, now we're going to get back on our agenda regarding public comment. And we have a lot of people who would like to address the board today. So we are going to limit your time to 2 minutes. And I ask that you please be very concise and specific in your comments. And try not to be redundant of what others may have said. And the more you can limit your time, the more people can address the board. I am going to limit public comment to a half hour because we have a lot of things to cover on the agenda. So please be concise. I also want to make a quick comment. I know as a board we've received a fairly large volume of emails over the last couple days on a particular topic that's on our agenda today. I wanted to reassure the public that we do read these emails. I've read every one of them, and I'm confident everybody else has. So I want to make sure that you know that we are reading your feedback. We appreciate your feedback. We recognize your opinions and your comments, and we greatly appreciate that. Okay, so let's get started. First up, we have Sherry Evgen, if I'm saying that correctly.
Good morning. It's Sherry Evian, but very good. Thank you. It's difficult. Thank you for serving, first of all, because my mother was the first woman serving on the board many, many years ago, and I know what a difficult job it is and very thankless, but I do thank you for serving. I wanted to come today on the Second Amendment proposal. I just learned of this a few days ago, and I'm one of the people who did email all of you, and I wanted to just share my opinions is that I don't feel this is really a necessary resolution to bring forward because there's already protection under the Constitution. I don't think we need to make changes and adopt only part of it. I also have some concerns about this in that if one group comes forward with this asking for a reduced view of the Constitution that applies to our county, what's next? Do other groups come forward and do the same thing? Are we limiting ourselves in the future? I also am concerned about what does this mean for implications. I noticed when I walk in the door today that this building prohibits firearms and other weapons. If we have a change to what's accepted in St. Croix County, does that mean that that's no longer enforceable or applicable? Can the courthouse change the rule or be forced to change their own policies? I don't know. And can also, what does that have to do for private businesses as well? And other manufacturing companies, are they limited then in what they can do for protections? I do feel as a family member of many, many generations of hunters and gun owners, we have guns in our family, we hunt, that I do believe that there is plenty of opportunity and freedom right now for gun ownership and for handling that as well, and that any other change to the adoption of a partial constitution resolution is unnecessary. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Carrie Kittel? And I think there's also on the podium, there should be a little green light. Is there a light on that podium?
There's a green button.
Green button, or that will turn red when your 2 minutes are up, so just
All right.
just so you're aware.
I think I have this under the 2-minute limit, so I don't have to punch anything. All right. My name is Kerry Kittle, and I live in New Richmond. First off, I want to also thank all the board members for service to the county and giving people an opportunity to come here today to share their opinions. It's important, and I thank you. I'm worried about the speed with which the resolution seems to be moving. I'm not certain it's a matter for the board to consider, but I think taking a longer view, if not defeating the proposal outright, would be a sound approach. In 2008, the Heller decision gave people the right to carry arms in their homes for personal protection. And that's been applied and expanded several times. McDonald made that apply to state and local governments. And then Brune, just this year, held that people can legally own weapons with filed off serial numbers, carry in theaters, even carry in summer camps. So I don't really see the assault on people's opportunity to keep and bear arms. I think that I have a concern with the honesty of how this resolution has been presented. Only part of the Second Amendment is being quoted. And I think a lot of times people want to go by what's in the language, the actual words in the Constitution. And I really struggle with the notion that only part of the Second Amendment is included. And I think that's a bad path to go down. Could you imagine the uproar if a resolution was brought forward that ignored, for example, the freedom to exercise religion and only focused on stopping the establishment of religion? There are many reasons why this should be defeated, but my time is nearly up. Again, thanks for your service to the county, and I appreciate the opportunity to take the 2 minutes. Have a good day.
Thank you, Kerry. Joyce Santo?
Good morning. My name is Joyce Santo. I live in Hudson Township. And I just want to say ditto, 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 ditto. And that's it. I just appreciate everything that has already been said, and I totally agree. It's redundant and unnecessary, the Second Amendment resolution before the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Sue Curtis?
Thank you. I appreciate these little lights here. This is nice. I'd also thank you for this opportunity to speak. Anyone in the audience that opposes this resolution, I'd like, in both the rooms, like them to raise their hand every time I say something that they agree with. I oppose this resolution because it's not necessary. You took an oath already. There's no need to go further. I oppose this resolution because it's not grounded in truth. It's based on the lie that gun rights are in peril. This resolution is nothing more than a disguised Second Amendment sanctuary, and I encourage you to table this resolution immediately. I oppose this resolution because decisions about the Second Amendment are not within the scope of this board's role. I oppose this resolution because it creates confusion and may actually encourage more firearms. More firearms mean there's more firearms in the hands of dangerous individuals. Given the fact that mental health issues, mass killings, suicides are historically high, and we've seen it here in St. Croix County, one should pause when approving any resolution that encourages firearms in the hands of individuals in any crisis. This board should focus on preventative measures. I oppose this resolution because I don't want to see a Main Street Hudson with pop-up gun sales, storefronts with assault rifles and combat gear and weapons of war, focused businesses instead of the family-oriented shops and business and restaurants that we already have. I oppose this resolution because of its procedural messiness, its questionable parliamentary procedures, and its fast-tracked status, with little time for our community input. Approval of it might further erode the community's perceptions and trust in this board. Lastly, raise your hand if you like this resolution indefinitely tabled and you do not want any further resolutions to come forward that highlight the Second Amendment. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sue. Grant Lind? Might be next door.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Grant Lind. I'm a professional firearms instructor. I am a student safety officer for St. Paul Public Schools. I spend my life around working with guns and dealing with the laws and rules where they're involved. Now, in Oregon, they passed a law. It's called I-595. In that law, if I come home from hunting and my wife offers to clean my gun and I hand her my firearm, she has just broken the law. I have broken the law. She has committed a felony. Under felony law, she would no longer be able to maintain or keep her concealed carry permit. That's a state law. Oregon also added another law to it this past year. As of January 15th, it will be essentially impossible to purchase a firearm in the state of Oregon. We think that's crazy, but as we look at it, just in November, at the beginning of the month, we had an election. During that election, the county board supervisors in Milwaukee County put forth a referendum for advisory on the elimination of semi-automatic firearms. Why in the world is a board of supervisors putting forth a referendum in the election banning semi-automatic firearms? If it can happen in Milwaukee County, it can happen in St. Croix County. We need to be ahead of the game. It's our job to be ahead of the game. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. Matthew Rust.
Good morning, and thank you all for your service on the Board of Supervisors. Last week I sent an email to this board explaining that the express purpose of government, according to the foundational governing documents, is to secure our rights. Declaration of Independence states that the government are given authority by the people to secure their unalienable rights as granted by their Creator. The United States Constitution states that it was written to secure the blessings of liberty as a supreme law of the land. The preamble to the Bill of Rights states that these were added to prevent abuse of government. The Wisconsin Constitution gives thanks to Almighty God for the blessings of freedom it secures, stating that free government can only be maintained by frequently returning to fundamental principles and holds public officials accountable to the people with the oath before God. Quote, I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of my office to the best of my ability, so help me God. The sacred oath before God is no trivial matter to the people you now serve. We, the people, are the originators, the authors, and the beneficiaries of our constitutions. As public servants, you did not swear an oath to obey your superiors or any individual, organization, or ideology. You did, however, swear an oath to the Constitution of the United States and the state of Wisconsin as the supreme law of the land, over and above any directive, policy, mandate, or command, no matter where it originated or how well-intentioned it may be. Swearing this oath before Almighty God is arguably the most consequential action you will ever take, and we solemnly urge you to consider how you will answer on the day you stand before Almighty God to give an account for your oath. Today, we, the people of St. Croix County, hold this Board of Supervisors publicly accountable to uphold the oath you swore before Almighty God and before the people of St. Croix County, and to pass this resolution as a pledge to support the people's constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Thank you, and God bless you.
Just in time. Turn on. Linda Hendricks.
Hello. Sorry I was in the other room. My name is Linda Hendricks. I live in town of Richmond. I would like to ask that you do not hold a vote on creating a Second Amendment sanctuary out of St. Croix County. As supervisors, you have already sworn to honor the U.S. Constitution, and for individuals to ask for you to highlight one aspect of the Constitution is redundant and wrong. It is also out of the realm of your responsibilities as supervisors at the county board level. I would like to see you focus on the county level duties at hand rather than spend time on issues that are outside of your control and responsibility. Please put this agenda item down and set it aside permanently. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Carrie Rice?
Good morning, and thank you for opening up some time. I'm Carrie Rice from Hudson. I'm here today to ask that you do not approve this hastily created resolution regarding the Second Amendment on your agenda today. In my work as a financial services professional, we often met with people who wanted extra insurance against a catastrophic event. Sometimes this was referred to as a belts and suspenders mentality, double extra insurance to make sure this can't possibly happen. You're laughing, and I'm glad you are, because it's meant to be humorous. Feeding into that belts and suspenders mentality, in this case, could lead to, at a minimum, a waste of your time. And it could lead to something much worse, increased instability in our county. If there was any doubt as to the underlying motives for the resolution, they are revealed in the recent AP article, quoting this supervisor proposing this resolution and other residents who trade in dystopian conspiracy theories. It is based in this paranoid view of the world, and that the perceived threats are from our fellow citizens and from their own government. We see it on social media feeds and comments. As a resident of the county, I do not feel safer with this resolution. Quite the opposite. The framing of this good versus evil suggests that anyone who disagrees on a topic is somehow a threat. The saber rattling is loud, and it is intended to intimidate. Please keep me, my family, and our county safe without feeding into this fear-based proposal. Please vote it down. Thank you.
Teresa Chandler.
Thank you for opening this up for people's comments, and thank you for your service for public service. I'm Teresa Chandler. I live in Hudson Township. And as the gentleman over here very clearly stated, all of these things, all of these oaths, all of these things are already there. We do not need a partial Second Amendment approval by the board. And when I came in, I'm a victim of gun violence. I come from a family of hunters. I'm fine with guns being used for what they should be used for. But I have lost too many people to guns. My cousin shot in the throat by somebody who had a gun who's mentally ill because there's not enough reasons to not sell it to them. I drive down the street and I see a little sign like a garage sale, guns for sale. I don't think anybody is in danger here of losing their guns. And and so many wonderful things have been said about fear and putting people against each other. Us interpreting the Second Amendment in a very limited way it's just wrong. It's already in the Constitution. You have already sworn an oath. We already have the laws that we abide by. And my friend who sat at the bottom of her basement stairs because her husband shot her in the stomach, and she laid there for 2 hours until she died, and then he killed himself. And 3 other people that I know who have committed suicide by gun. I think that we need to look towards public safety. And when I came in, I saw this thing up here. You said, the county that delivers service with compassion and respect for people and the environment. And you will strengthen our social and economic future by providing health, safety, and well-being for all. I think businesses don't want to have to not be able
I'm
to
sorry to
say you can't
interrupt.
bring in.
Could you, if you could just wrap up quickly?
Yeah.
Thank you, Teresa.
Yeah, so I just learned about this, and it was rushed through, so I encourage you, please vote no on this hasty and ill-conceived amendment. Thank you.
Okay, Nate, I'm not sure about if I'm going to get your last name right. Kobilka? Am I close? Maybe? Do we have a Nate in the audience? Oh, there we are. Was I close in that last name, or?
You were spot on.
Oh, thank you.
Which is surprising. Most people aren't. I'll keep myself brief. I'm here to talk about the Second Amendment resolution. I am a supporter of the Second Amendment. I own a rifle. I'm engaged with firearm history. I shoot recreationally. I think now more than ever, it's important for people to be able to own firearms. However, I cannot, in good faith, support making St. Croix County a Second Amendment county. I think that resolution is unnecessary. It will do little to really protect gun rights. If anything, it will just drive a political wedge deeper into this county and make solving actual, real issues harder and more difficult. Thank you for your time.
Michael Hansen. Must be in the other room. There we are.
Hello. I thank this board for holding this meeting, allowing our comments. It's very appreciated. My name is Michael Hansen. I'm a resident of Hammond, and I've come here today as a proud gun rights supporter of the Second Amendment and its purpose. But I come here to urge you to vote against this proposal. This proposal is completely unnecessary. The Second Amendment is a law. The Supreme Court upheld it this summer by striking down concealed carry law in New York. So, in reference to the Oregon law that the gentleman earlier referenced, it is likely that it will not survive the Supreme Court. So, in that case, which I do disagree with the law, it will not survive. Gun rights here in the United States are here to stay, and there is no clear threat. But this proposal, in its purpose, seeks to provide a narrative that is borderline conspiratorial, that there is a threat by the government of this country in imminent future to take away the guns of the people. It is not true. It has never been true. But it promotes such things as illegal militia groups who have formed across this country in recent years, who circumvent the lawful police officers of this nation who we all respect, and who commit terrible, violent actions. It's supposed protection of the Second Amendment, which is under no threat, as we saw in part on January 6th of last year. And not only that, if this proposal is enacted and we become a Second Amendment sanctuary county, what gun laws would we be trying to shy away from? Would those include the red flag laws passed this summer by Congress, a bipartisan proposal where judges could take away guns from those who might be dangerous or deemed mentally unfit to hold them, who might go out and shoot up a school? As someone who is in school, I very much like those laws. And I would rather not, this county, essentially endorse the idea that these laws are illegitimate, they go against the Constitution. And
Michael, could you wrap up real quickly? I'm sorry.
And one final point, if this is enacted, and somehow we do say we're not going to follow these laws, despite the federal government's mandate to say that we should, what do you think is going to happen? Should we actually resist?
Okay, Carol Ivance, if I'm saying that correctly. Carol? Yes, that's a good idea. Next would be Sarah Yakub.
Hi, my name's Carol Ivance. I live in Hudson. As far as the reason to affirm your support for 2A, it's because it is under attack at the state and federal level and all over the country. The red flag laws are a good example. They're unconstitutional. They're an example of how our government is taking away our gun rights. And our history teaches us that our forefathers were up against a tyrannical government. Governments around the world have been tyrannical in this day and age and throughout history. And what's to promise us that that won't happen here, especially as we have already seen it happening in the last couple of years. There's plenty of examples all over the country, but I don't have time to get into them. So we would like you to affirm your support for 2A while you still have a chance to, before something else comes down the pike, like what happened in Milwaukee County. And then there are many instances of people reaffirming support for something or just reviewing it. For example, many couples have a renewal of vows ceremony after several decades of marriage. And at each hospital that I worked at, we had an annual safety review. We had to take classes to stay up on medical advances so that we could renew our license. It's a good idea for each citizen, and especially those holding public office, to familiarize themselves with the law. I strongly recommend taking a constitutional class for everybody, especially those on the board. It's a truly remarkable, unique document, well worth preserving and fighting for. And this resolution just lets us know that you will do as you promised, because you have all taken a vow to support the Constitution. But because 2A is so much under attack, we would like to know that you actually will do that. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your time.
Sarah? Next up is Paul Nazovic.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, your work, your public service, and for your willingness to hear comments that are easy to hear and those that are not. I apologize in advance for my facetiousness. It's my spectrum showing, and it's how I cope with difficult conversations, so bear with me. In looking at the agenda, following the resolution to give Sheriff Knutson and DA Carl Anderson your blessing to not follow or not enforce gun laws are a number of resolutions that will raise our taxes. Scott and Carl want more money, all while supporting resolutions like this that create more crime, which of course justifies them asking for more money. Yes, this is a never-ending cycle. For those enjoying that steady flow of our tax dollars, more crime means more funding, more attorneys, more justification for a gluttonous $100 million vanity project courthouse, which quite frankly, former DA from Los Angeles, we don't need, and it's ridiculous. So while some of you are interested in cosplaying 1883 Cowboys, great series, but fiction, and the past, your buddies are raising our taxes. We, the people of this community, our children, our homes, our schools, are less safe, and we, the taxpayers, pay more. Nobody who's aware of the numbers can look someone in the eye in good conscience, aware of our domestic violence and sexual assault problems, and say, yeah, let's get more guns here. We are a county that bends over backwards to make sure sexual predators can go into the military because, hey, let's weaponize sociopaths. So this is the opposite of public safety. Mark, you and I agree and disagree on a lot of things, and I appreciate your professionalism in our discourse. This is your resolution. We want to be strict for constitutionalists? Great. The bullet didn't exist in 1971. 1847, yay French. And the word firearm referred to muskets and flintlock pistols. The Second Amendment is also rooted in a well-regulated militia. But let's just keep on ignoring the parts we don't like and for which we cannot answer. You all have a responsibility to do and be better. Step up and own it. Vote no. And this is also on behalf of my children who are sick and tired of doing safety drills and come home and ask, Mommy, am I going to be shot today? Be better. Thank you.
Yes, Supervisor.
In the past, we have asked to refrain from using specific supervisors' names. I would ask that we continue that.
And that would be very appropriate. Thank you. Paul Nasvik, and Scott Miller is up after Paul.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a resident of St. Joe. We went through this process last year, a little stronger version of the Second Amendment gun right issues. And I was a past town board member, goes back a ways, about 26 years at this point, dealing with a number of hard issues coming through St. Joe as the bridge was being proposed at that time. And land issues became very, very important. Zoning became a very critical thing. And one of the things I learned as a town board member was that if you want good, strong zoning, you pay attention to the rules that you're designed to oversee. You don't make exceptions based on a whim. You don't allow things to be diluted. You stick with what you're supposed to do. That's what you guys are called to do. I looked up your responsibilities and purposes under, I guess it's section 9003. You're required to follow the Constitution of the United States, the state of Wisconsin, and to follow all of the laws that govern. You are not designed to dilute them. You are not designed to change them in little ways. You are here to follow those laws and do your best to uphold the county in its proper place. That's what you're called to do. Why on earth would you try and introduce something that is so controversial that you have no business being involved in? I would ask you, as Sue, not just to defeat it, but table it permanently. Don't allow it to come up. Don't complicate your lives with this issue. You don't need it. It will only come back to haunt you. Thank you.
Greg, we've actually reached this half hour, but I have 3 slips left, and I'm going to allow them to speak. So, Scott, you're up, and followed by Tim Nixon.
Thanks, everyone, for allowing me to speak. This stack of cards, 201 cards, I've collected over the past couple of years. The packet I'm handing out, actually, I need one of them back when you get a chance. But, thank you. So, I'll kind of walk through this once everybody has it, but in the short term, the only reason I'm standing here today was because our county board a couple of years ago was trying to tell me that I was going to be mandated to wear a mask as I walked around this county in public. That on its face is crazy, and if you're an American, true American, that our little government was going to tell us that I had to go into my local grocery store with a mask on. Or, worse off, I bet everybody in this room would agree that corporate America is killing our small businesses, and it's all by design and in cooperation with the government. Worse off, they wanted to limit small business to 25% capacity, so we could bury these people who are already in debt. So that's what put me here today. And then I went around the county as we've seen the craziness of 2020 unfold as governments, Minneapolis, St. Paul, failed their citizens to protect them. When our government fails, the only solution is the citizens have to protect themselves. So, the hand-raising crowd back here, I'm with ya. We shouldn't have to do this. But if you look at history tells us that when government gets too big and they start telling the citizens what to do, they are taking away our freedoms, our rights. This isn't about the Second Amendment. It's about all our rights. The only amendment that's going to protect all our rights is the Second Amendment. All right? So there's 201 cards from St. Croix County residents that support it. In this file, I also have a petition that was both online and paper. There was 312 on that petition.
Scott, if you could wrap up quickly.
Sorry. Yep. So I just want to say this has nothing to do with about guns. It has about you guys protecting our rights, and a Second Amendment protects all of them. And I appreciate all your guys' support and help on the critical matters. And through discussion from the public stuff, the mental health is the real issue we need to deal with. It's not the guns. Thank you.
Tim Nixon.
Morning. Thanks for making the extra time this morning. It's my first time appearing before the board, so thank you also for that privilege. I've lived in St. Croix County since the year 2000, and I serve on and have served on numerous nonprofit boards in the region, and I'm the CEO of a small business with a global footprint. I'm an avid hunter, gun owner, outdoorsman, and I'm deeply committed to the Constitution and the many benefits, liberties, and responsibilities it gives us as citizens. I strongly oppose the Second Amendment resolution before the board. This resolution sends the wrong message to a minority that thinks they should be able to decide what constitutes infringement of the Second Amendment, rather than the courts and our current legislative and government due process. Please do not add fuel to an already dangerous fire. In addition, as a business owner, I think it sends a terrible signal to potential investors, homeowners, visitors to our county and state parks and lands, and the many other moderate observers of St. Croix County of many political stripes. It will have an economic toll on all of our futures. So let's not solve a problem we don't have, and thereby create a new one. Thanks for your time.
And our last speaker will be Sarah Bachlan.
Hi, good morning. I hear a lot of people saying, I support 2A rights, but I would say to that that you are not a true supporter of the 2A rights then. My notes are all over the place, I'm sorry. People talk about fear. We're bringing this resolution forward in fear. But what I hear is a lot of fear on the other side. Fear of what would these people do? I'm one of those people. There's no ill intention on this. It is not a removal of any current law. It is just an ask to support the 2A rights as they stand. A lot of other comments were, it shows this 2A resolution shows a willingness to instigate a rebellion. It's rooted in politically or inspired paranoia, making it harder to stop the next mass shooting. It is intimidation and menace at its best. I don't think any of those are correct. As Scott stated, who is the tyrannical government? Well, currently nationwide. That is what we're seeing, as well as 2 years ago here at the county. If this resolution is unnecessary and redundant as it has been stated, then it asks you, why are you here in such strong opposition to it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone for your comments and being able to address the board. We do appreciate it. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. Could I have a motion on the consent agenda, please? Supervisor Cowner, second. Supervisor Osnes. And we're ready to vote on our consent agenda. Okay, thank you. Consent agenda is approved. We've already done our annual department report, so we're going to move on to presentations and recognitions. I'll turn it over to Ken.
Yeah, I think Lisa and Chad are here. They're just hiding just outside the door. So I'll turn it over to Lisa here. She's going to present the award for Chad.
Thank you for having us. I'm Lisa Plunkett, the Child Support Administrator, and I just want to have one of my staff recognized for the wonderful job that he does, Chad Wolski. To my right. He was presented with the WCSEA, which is the Wisconsin Child Support Enforcement Association Member of the Year Award, and his outstanding volunteerism and commitment to our child support program. He was intricate in developing our virtual meetings for our fall conference last year, and also for the legal track, he does virtual meetings for them and then the board meetings. So he was recognized for his outstanding achievement in doing that, and with his commitment to the child support modernization program that we are going through to revamp our computer system, and several other committees that he is on. So I just wanted to give him some recognition for the great job that he does, and if you wanted to say a few words.
Sure. I've been with child support for almost 20 years now, so we've always had great support from the county board, so I just want to say my appreciation, because I wouldn't be able to do what I do without all of you guys supporting our program. I think we do a really good job providing great customer service and assisting our families through difficult times in our agency. So I don't have anything else. Hopefully the rest of your guys' meeting goes well. I don't think I have anything else. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you, Chad. You are a rock star. Okay, next we have a presentation from Mary Claire Olson Potter on the Hudson Area Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Long, and all you, and the supervisors for your time this morning. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Mary Claire Olson Potter, President of the Hudson Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism Bureau. I'm here this morning just to give you a few updates. So first, I want to say thank you for your commitment and your leadership to leading St. Croix County for all of us residents. We greatly appreciate it. Today, I'll cover briefly 3 topics: traveler data, partnerships, and strategy. As the St. Croix County Economic Development Corporation reported this summer, Greater St. Croix Valley had a double-digit traveler spending increase in 2021. Traveler spending in St. Croix County increased from $90.3 million in 2020 to $113.3 million in 2021, which is a 25% increase, according to the data that the Wisconsin Department of Tourism releases. The total economic impact from travelers in St. Croix County was also up, rising from $158.1 million in 2020 to $188 million in 2021, which is a 5.1% increase. Spending from travelers and tourists supported 1,836 jobs right here in the county, which is an increase of 5.1% from 2020, and generated $12.8 million in state and local taxes, which is up 12% from 2020. Despite the increases in 2021, traveler and tourism spending are below the pre-COVID levels of 2019. Tourism remains one of the top Wisconsin 3 industries, along with manufacturing and agriculture. Because of our proximity to the Twin Cities metro area, many visitors from Minnesota enjoy day trippers to the greater St. Croix Valley, which includes St. Croix County, Polk, and Pierce counties. Travel Wisconsin reports that the first quarter is the top quarter for day trips to the state of Wisconsin, more than the third quarter, which surprised me a little bit in the summer, but they love to come here in the winter, right? Okay, so 32% of travelers use social media to determine their vacation plans, and 34% look to friends and family for travel recommendations. Secondly, partnerships. The Hudson Area Tourism Bureau cannot do this work on our own. We rely on our partnerships to bring visitors to Hudson and St. Croix County. I want to thank Ellen and her team from the county's Community Development Department who have helped us with information to update our website and brochures to highlight the beautiful parks and all the county has to offer visitors and residents. We are also a member of the St. Croix Valley Regional Tourism Alliance, which is a unique partnership. It's a bi-state partnership with 17 communities along the St. Croix River, which covers both Wisconsin and Minnesota. This joint effort promotes communities and the beauty of the St. Croix River Valley. And then we also work with Travel Wisconsin on promotional opportunities and the State Department of Tourism. And finally, strategy. We have a tourism committee that includes business and tourism-related entities. We work off a plan that we develop each year with the goal to increase the economic benefits of tourism to the community by marketing this area as a great place to visit and explore, which supports both local and tourism audiences. Included in that strategy are a number of initiatives, such as advertising plan, print pieces, social media, website, and events to invite visitors to the area. I hope you will take a moment to enjoy the 375,000 lights that are in Lakefront Park this year. And as you look for holiday movies to watch, there were 2 movies that were filmed in Hudson a couple years ago, and one is currently being shown on the Great American Family Network. You will recognize many locations in that film, and you might recognize a couple residents in that film. Has anyone seen that movie? Thank you so much, Cheryl Long. I appreciate that so much. Did you recognize me in the movie? You did? Yay! All right, thank you. So it is a fun movie, and like I said, I was in it. I was actually in both of them, but the other one is not on the big screen yet. I'm just waiting for that. But anyway, thank you so much for all that you do. If you have any questions or would like some additional information, please reach out to me. And again, I thank you for your time and wish you a wonderful and safe holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Any questions before we move on? Okay, thank you, Mary. Okay, let's move right on to the financial update. Ken?
Yep, the financial report is in your packet. It represents through the month of October. Just really the highest level here is we have 16% of our revenues outstanding yet to be collected for the rest of the year and 22% of our expenses. So that means we have more money than we've spent, so that's a good thing. So that's the bottom line of the financial report. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer. I did want to just touch on too, on our KIP projects. There's a spreadsheet in the packet that lists all the KIP projects, including the Government Center project. The $80 million project, we've spent about $1.3 million of that $80 million so far. A long way to go yet. But we did just recently issue bid package number 3, which was estimated to be $19 million, so a big chunk of that project, and the bids came in just under $16 million. So significant savings on that bid package. So don't spend all the money yet because bid packages sometimes are up or down. The next big one, bid package number 4, is going to be at the end of February, and that'll be the biggest chunk of the project. So stay tuned for how that one comes out, but that'll really then dictate where that project is heading for us. Any questions on financial report? All right, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move right on to our business items. I think we'll take up the first item and then maybe we'll take a short break. But let's tackle this item first for the benefit of our public that is here today. The first item is a resolution to support the U.S. Constitution and Wisconsin Constitution and rights explicitly provided therein. And we need a motion. Motion by Supervisor Carlson and a second. Second, Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor, I know.
All right. I'd like to move to postpone the main motion indefinitely.
Second.
There was a motion to postpone indefinitely. Was that correct? Supervisor Hanson and second by Supervisor Leaf. We can now discuss that motion. Yes. Yes. Any
The motion is
discussion?
debatable.
All right, I'd like to just, the county board is charged with doing the county's business. This is not the county's business. The Constitution is pretty broad. I mean, it's covered. We have a lot of business that we're supposed to do. This is redundant, you know. I could go on and on and on and on and on, but there was so much that was said earlier along these lines that I don't want to waste your time. You understand what I'm trying to say. It's not necessary. I will say that we've resisted many, many times to take up things that are not the county's business, which are brought forward for whatever reason by whatever group that we don't need to take up. I'm not going to say whatever motive people have for bringing business to the county. I'm not going to condone or condemn people's motive. We just don't have any reason to do this, and it's taken so much staff time. And let me tell you that this is not a good way to spend the county's money, to commit so much time to the county staff in dealing with this kind of matter. We just don't need to. I'll use an example just so you understand that I'm committed to this. When a measure was brought forward to the committee that I chair, Community Development, to have a resolution to support a measure that was before the United States Congress for a cap and trade of carbon emissions. I wasn't in favor of that, and I wasn't in favor of forwarding it to the county board because it wasn't the business of the county to deal with that. It was a lot like that. It's not whether or not it's my opinion that matters. It's whether or not it's the county's business to deal with it. Therefore, I'd like to just make this. I'd like to make this postponed indefinitely without giving an opinion on it. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Leaf?
So this spring, we all stood up in front of Judge Needham and had our hand up, right hand, and we swore to our oath to the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin and the Constitution of the United States of America, all of it, not just one, not just a section called out. We didn't do that. Our job is to support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Wisconsin to the best of our ability, so help us God. And this kind of resolution just creates division. It's not in our scope. We are covered. There's nothing that we would do as a county that I think would put rights in jeopardy. It would be against our oath.
Supervisor Lind?
I dare say that anyone that believes that our Constitution is not under attack is asleep. We are, what happened during COVID, it was spoken about. Putting a mask on your face, that is against the Constitution, to be told what you have to do. It is my right to die if I choose to. You can't tell me to put a mask on my face. You can't tell me to do those things. What I do know is that social media capped us with our commenting and our stuff. So the First Amendment has already been a disaster. For the last 2 years, I lost Facebook accounts because they hushed me. Is that free speech? Tell me that's free speech. That Constitution protects us to be able to say what we want to say, whether you agree with it or not. I agree with you, Dan. I wish this was a perfect world. It is not. The Constitution is under attack. And what this does is it says, we as a county will not allow ATF to come in here and demand our guns, to count our bullets, to do anything like that, because it's unacceptable for that invasion. We watched an invasion of Mar-a-Lago. The FBI walked in. That is not okay. When becomes your house. This county wants to protect your rights to not be invaded, to not lose the ability to protect your family. We're not saying go and shoot up the county, go and shoot, we want all the brain damaged people to come forward and have guns. That is not what we're saying. We are saying you have a right to bear arms. It shall not be infringed. That is what we're saying. And as a county, we oppose anybody messing with the Constitution because our Constitution is under attack. If anybody is listening to what's actually going on in this country right now, you would know that. I would say turn off CNN, turn off CNBC, ABC, NBC, Fox, turn them off. They're lying to you. They are owned. You are not getting the truth. We need to pass this to protect the county, to protect your rights. And that's whether you want a gun or not. But it doesn't mean we're coming for you with our guns. But we have a right, and we want to protect the Constitution. So I would disagree with tabling this indefinitely, for sure. If it needs to go back to committee, that's fine. But to table this indefinitely is unacceptable. I yield. Thank you.
Other discussion, Supervisor Carlson.
Thank you. The reason why I bought this, sponsored this, and brought it forward in the first place is I had one person after another express the same fears that Supervisor District 1, one after another. And people are afraid our rights are under attack, and they generally believe it. Yes, we took an oath, but President Biden also took an oath. And just recently he said he wants to took the same oath. Just recently, he said he wants to eliminate all semi-automatic weapons. Milwaukee County, they also took the oath, but now they're also we're trying with their resolution, the referendum, to take away. So what the people want is to know that we are going to reaffirm their Second Amendment rights, so they don't have to worry about it. Some people express fears that if this is passed, that all these people are going to go buy a bunch of guns now, and do whatever. I would say if this passes, it actually reassures them that we have their rights and they don't need to worry about us or their rights being taken away. So we're basically reaffirming the oath that we took because they see so many other people that took the same oath trying to get rid of Second Amendment rights for people. So I would like to not have this tabled.
Other comments, Supervisor Telejohn?
Yes, and in listening to my constituents, that most of them are opposing this amendment, so I'd be in favor of tabling it. I'm representing my constituents, and I'm a gun owner too, and I hunt, and I don't have any fears of any rights being taken away from me and I've already pledged the oath. So let's just table it and get it out of the way.
Other discussion, comments? Seeing none, we're going to vote. Oh, I'm sorry, Supervisor Fiedler.
One, we had some very eloquent statements on both sides of this issue. And thank you for all your effort to come here this morning and share those with us. I think we're kind of fighting two principles. I think everybody in this room would be 19-0. Do you support the Constitution? Yes. And then the question is it the type of thing we should bring before this committee, as Supervisor Hansen eloquently stated? And there's a zillion things we could bring before this committee. But let's just talk about what is this resolution? The title of it is a resolution to support the Constitution and the Wisconsin Constitution and the rights explicitly provided therein. And that's precisely what the therefore clause is. The therefore clause only says that resolved that St. Croix County Board of Supervisors will uphold its oath to support the federal and state constitutions and preserve the rights explicitly provided therein. Well, what are those rights? Well, the right of religion, the right of freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of petition, the right to vote, the voting age for 18-year-olds, the right not to have a poll tax, the right against search and seizure, and right of due process, right of equal protection. And that's exactly what we're saying when we say the rights explicitly provided therein, that we support the Constitution and every right there, and that includes the Second Amendment, but includes the First Amendment and every other amendment I just cited, every other right within an amendment or separate amendment that we talked about. So I think we could all support this. I wish we could almost get to a parliamentary situation where we say, if we needed to, and it's redundant, that we support the Constitution and the rights provided therein. Is there anybody in the room who doesn't support the Constitution? There's not a hand that goes up. Is there anybody that doesn't support the rights in the Constitution? Not a hand goes up. So we support the resolution, but we're afraid because we've been told some big-time lies by some people. Does anybody see the word sanctuary county in here? No. There's not a single word in here about a sanctuary county. Are we going to arm 15-year-olds with AR-15s? No. Nothing like that. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So we have to remember what's in the resolution and what have you been lied to, be told what's in here that you can stand up and say, we don't want a sanctuary county. There's nothing in here that says that. So it's just overstatement. You've been misled. Now, but it's a good principle that I think Supervisor Hanson brought up. Do we want to consider this? Because it is redundant. We've all sworn to it. No one's going to unswear it. Is anybody going to unswear it at the table? No. Not a single soul will unswear it. So we run up against that principle. Do we want to have this thing come up time after time after time after time after time on every issue that we all hold dear? And it's not county business. We've just done some county business. We're going to do some more county business. We're busy with county business. The staff is busy with county business. So there's a great reason to believe that we should probably not engage in things that don't just, I don't want to say waste our time, because this was a good discussion. We heard a lot of heartfelt comment from people, but there's not going to be any amendments at this county dealing with gun rights, for goodness sakes. And we couldn't do it anyway. It's a federal and state issue. Thank you.
Other discussion, comments? Okay, so we are ready to vote on the motion to table the resolution indefinitely. We're not voting on the resolution itself, but the motion to table indefinitely. Just want to make that clear. That's a tie vote, which I believe it fails. So that motion fails, and we're now on to back to the original resolution. Supervisor Leaf.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment to this resolution, and I have copies of it. And basically, it does what Supervisor Fiedler suggests, which is just reaffirming our support of the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin and the federal Constitution.
Second.
I can read it if you'd like. Once everyone has a copy, I'll read it.
Yeah, it's 1 minute till we get our copies around.
I don't know if you want me to read it or if you want to read it first. Or do you want to read it? It doesn't matter.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so resolution supporting the United States Constitution and Wisconsin's Constitution. Whereas the United States of America was founded as a constitutional republic with the Constitution of the United States of America as its founding document. And whereas the state of Wisconsin was accepted into the United States of America as a state with an established constitution and of the state of Wisconsin, and whereas St. Croix County is a county within the state of Wisconsin, and Wisconsin a state within the United States of America, Therefore, be it resolved by the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors that the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin are governing documents within St. Croix County, and therefore be it resolved that no laws, rules, or regulations which contravene the Constitution of the United States of America or the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin shall be promulgated or enforceable within St. Croix County.
Okay, first there was a motion to amend. Is there a second? Supervisor Hanson. Oh, you did? Okay, sorry, I missed that. So let's discuss the amendment.
I think this gets
Supervisor
back
Leaf?
to what we just heard, that this is about supporting our constitutions, both state and federal, and upholding our oath, which, without singling out a single amendment, as it's covered within the whole Constitution, those amendments therein. And this little guy, pocket Constitution.
Supervisor Burning, did you have a comment?
This is an entirely different resolution and is not an, I don't consider it an amendment. So this is a completely rewritten, this is a completely separate resolution. So I guess I would ask how we would handle this, because an amendment, from what I understand, is changing bits and pieces of a text, not this.
I would have to agree with you.
So I guess,
I can withdraw it.
hold on one second, I'm sorry. My question is, what do we do with this? Because this is not an amendment.
I would offer an amendment to the existing resolution then, if this won't come before.
I think that would be preferable.
Okay, so.
I'm sorry, I have a question on the floor right now. Please, I want that, but I wasn't asking you. I was asking our corp counsel and the leadership up there.
This would be is far from an amendment of the original resolution. So it would have to be considered separately.
I would agree with that. I think the intent of Supervisor Leaf was to amend it to include all aspects of the Constitution, not just the Second Amendment. But if the chair believes that this is an entirely new resolution, what can happen today is it can be withdrawn by Supervisor Leaf, and she can make a different amendment to the resolution.
I would like to do that.
Go right
Okay,
ahead.
so what I would propose with the existing language that's on the screen is that I amend to remove, whereas the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States provides the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Basically, the second, 2 and 3 paragraphs. So it would basically say, whereas the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors supports the Constitution of the United States as the supreme law of our nation, and whereas the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors reaffirms its commitment to the Constitution and the rights provided for therein against any infringement by either the federal or state government. Now therefore be it resolved that the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors will uphold its oath to support the federal and state constitution and to preserve rights explicitly provided therein.
Point of inquiry, we had a motion and a second, correct? On this part, you did, but did that need to happen?
This was, what was the second on your amendment? You're proposing a motion to amend, but we need a second on that.
Right, but I
before we
withdrew
can
my
discuss.
motion, which as the person who made the motion, I can withdraw the motion.
She can withdraw it in her entirety, and the person that seconded does not need to withdraw. Okay, all right, that was my inquiry, thank you.
We do need a second on the amendment. Supervisor Hanson. Okay, so the motion on the floor now is to amend the original resolution by deleting the second and third paragraphs. And we're ready for discussion on that.
Is that written out because it's just deleting the second and third paragraphs and that's it?
Correct. Supervisor Carlson.
Thank you. I would be against doing that. As one of our commenters brought out earlier, the Second Amendment also is the guarantor of the other amendments. It's also what is the concern of the moment of my constituents that have talked to me about it. So I would like to keep that language in.
Other comments? Supervisor Lind?
I agree with Mark.
Supervisor
Okay,
Leaf?
now this gets to what we're talking about before, which I got rid of this one. So what I'm saying is that it gets back to what we all agree, we support the Constitution, all of it, not without highlighting any specific amendments that we deem special somehow.
Supervisor Lind?
Is it possible to do an extra amendment at this point, or at what point can I amend it? After hers? Okay.
Correct. After this vote on this amendment, then you
Because
can
I have
make
the next one. Perfect, thanks.
Other discussion, comments on the amended resolution? Supervisor Hanson?
Yeah, the reason that I would second this is because it distills it down to supporting the Constitution. And that's what this purports to do. If you believe in the Constitution, you believe in all of the Constitution, and to separate out any of it for any purpose is to have an ideological purpose. And if you claim to not have an ideological purpose, that you support the Constitution, that's an entirely different matter. I support and love the Constitution. I own guns. It's a separate thing. Nobody ever will take my guns away, period. That's a separate conversation. This is about the Constitution. At least that's the way it's been presented. So, I love the Constitution. We take out these two paragraphs. I can affirm my love for the Constitution. Now we can get down to doing what we've been elected to do, which is the business of the county.
Other comments? Supervisor Adams?
I'd like to point out that within the Wisconsin State Constitution, Article 1, Section 25, there is no statement there that those rights will not be infringed, the right to keep and bear arms. And I noticed that this particular Section 25 only came about in 1998, not 1848 when the state was approved. So words do have meanings. I think that to have the statement not be infringed, I would have liked that within the Wisconsin State Constitution. So I just think we have to be aware that if words are not there, they don't have meaning. Other states, such as Illinois, Oregon, and others, seem to come up with schemes to infringe upon we the people. And we have to be careful of that. I would agree with sticking with the words that were in the original proposal. Thank you.
Other comments? Supervisor Barklow?
I second Paul's statement. The First Amendment is for us to redress our grievances against our government, and the Second Amendment is in case we fail at the first. So.
Other comments? Let's vote on the motion to amend by deleting the second and third paragraphs, the whereas, in the original resolution.
Clarification, what are we voting on?
Voting on, and the motion was to amend the original resolution by deleting the second and third paragraphs, the two whereas. Okay, that appears to be tied and therefore fails. So we're now back to the original resolution. Any comments on the original resolution as it stands right now? Supervisor Lind?
I do move to amend that in the therefore statement, we would add the United States Constitution with the date of 12/15/1791 behind it, and the Wisconsin Constitution 1998 added to this, and let it stand as it is.
Motion to amend, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Supervisor Barklow. Discussion on the proposed amendment. Supervisor Shirley?
We have an inherent issue with that, in that if there's an additional amendment approved, we're now locking ourselves into where we were originally. We're not accepting the new amendment, if there shall ever be one, as to what our language here, if we do that.
Other discussion, comments? Supervisor Burning?
There has now been 3 or 4 offers for an amendment. That tells me that what came out of the committee, this body does not agree with. All the motions have failed. I believe this needs to go back to public protection to be worked on. It came out of public protection unanimous, but now apparently this body can't find it. 9-9 has been every vote. So I'm thinking this should go back. If we keep making amendment after amendment and it's 9-9, we're never going to get out of here, ever. And whatever, I know we got to get this right, and I agree on that. But if we're going to 9-9 it all day, let's get this back to public protection, and I hope people can follow me on that.
You're making a motion to send it back to committee?
I think that's what I'm doing.
I think that one trumps the amendment.
So, well, we need to first vote on the motion to amend the original resolution first. Other comments on that amendment? Supervisor Carlson.
I would like to see us making, to do what she suggested to do. I do not think it's legal. If the Constitution is changed through legal means, through a convention or through legislative process, then that is the new Constitution and we have to uphold it. So I don't think we can make a resolution to say that we won't recognize a legally changed Constitution.
Any further discussion on the amendment? Can we clarify the motion, please? The amendment.
Can you repeat what you want to modify?
In the therefore statement, I would like it to read, now therefore be it resolved that the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors will uphold its oath to support the United States Constitution, in parentheses 1215-1791, end parenthesis, and the Wisconsin Constitution, parenthesis 1998, end, and preserve rights explicitly provided therein. That is what I would like to amend it to, simply adding the dates.
So there's your clarification on the last paragraph of the resolution. So now we, Supervisor Fiedler?
Just a question. Why the 12/15/1791 date?
That is the date of the United States Constitution.
Actually, I think it was a little bit earlier than that.
It was, but it was finalized, and that's the one they go by.
Okay, we're going to vote on this right now.
Point of order. Can we get legal counsel to verify those dates before we vote on it?
That might take me more than a minute.
Well, I don't know that it matters for the motion.
That's the motion she made, that's the motion you're voting on. Whether you agree with her or not is what you will vote on.
All right.
So we're voting on the amendment to the resolution right now. Okay, we are back to the original resolution. And barring any further comments, Supervisor Burning.
I'd like to send this back to public protection, please.
I would second that.
Supervisor
third
Leaf
that.
will second sending it back to public protection. Any comments? Any further discussion? Supervisor Carlson?
I would support sending it back. I believe I was in error when I did an amendment during the committee where I said it was only technical changes from the original, anyways. Since then, it was pointed out to me it was a structural change. So I believe it best to send it back so we can also correct that and clarify that.
Any other comments? We're now voting on sending this resolution back to public protection. And that motion passes. Let's take a 10-minute break. Back to actual, real, critical business that affects the citizens of the county. The next business item.
Did you want to do the next business?
No.
Okay.
Next business item is the resolution requesting the state of Wisconsin to review and revise entry-level compensation rate for assistant district attorneys. Do we have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Supervisor Fiedler, second Supervisor Osnes. Who would like to give a summary of this? Would you like to, or I see our
Well, I
district
see
attorney?
our district attorney is here, and he can address it in detail. But in essence, this resolution basically asks our state legislature to look at to properly compensate assistant district attorneys. Currently, their rate of compensation is very low, and our district attorney has extraordinary difficulty, as do all district attorneys in the state of Wisconsin, in hiring a new assistant district attorneys. And that thwarts the ability of the justice system to work. So this simply asks the state to look at appropriate compensation for assistant district attorneys. It doesn't cost the county a penny and helps the county.
Mr. Carlson?
Yeah, we also need to support it so that we don't get stuck with huge bills from judges appointing attorneys because we don't have enough.
Any discussion? I don't know, Carl, if you'd like to add any comments or not?
I'll just say really briefly, the reality is that it's, yeah, like a vice chair said, it's really hard to hire. I have 2 vacancies. I've had them for months. I've had 2 people apply, both with no experience. I offered both of them the jobs, and both of them took jobs elsewhere. It's just, it's not a competitive salary, so I'm hoping the legislature does it. This is a resolution that's been going around the county, around counties all over the state. Every DA in the entire state signed a letter to the legislature asking for the same thing. So basically, it's just saying, you know, they recognize the need in St. Croix County too, and hopefully our legislature increases the salaries that really haven't increased in years. So, thanks. If anyone has a question, I can answer.
Any questions, comments? Okay, we're ready to vote on the resolution. And that passes. Thank you. Thank you, Carl. Well, that was easy. Okay. Let's move on to the next item, which would be the resolution authorizing referendum to increase the tax levy for public safety. Supervisor Osnes, motion, second. Supervisor Otino. This would also be public safety. I don't know who is prepared to offer a summary, or Ken, I guess you're on.
All right. So with the government center expansion project, you know, we talked about that, and that was driven by population growth. St. Croix County, one of the very fastest growing counties for decades now, because of our proximity to the cities. You heard Judge Needham earlier talk about when this building was built 30 years ago, there were 2 judges, and 100% increase, there's 4 judges now, and that he's thinking that there's going to be a 5th judge. So one of the things that hasn't grown at that same pace as the number of judges we have, the number of cases we have, the number of citizens that we have in the counties, the number of sheriff deputies that we have. So I could only positively confirm back 15 years ago the number of sheriff deputies we have. I don't know the exact numbers positively how many we had prior to that, but we have 1 more new net deputy than we did 15 years ago. So, I mean, the population has nearly doubled, but we haven't not been increasing the amount of public safety protection that we have available in the county. The Sheriff's Department is heavily relied upon by the other police agencies in the county. When they need backup, when they need assistance on cases, we're the agency that they turn to. And so this referendum because it's the only means that we have to grow faster than the net new construction based upon revenue limits by the state. This is the only mechanism we have to grow at the rate that we really need to. So what this will do is it will ask the voters to approve $3.5 million. And what we're going to do with that money then is we're going to add 8 additional sheriff deputies. We're going to add 4 correction deputies, 3 investigators, 2 of them in the sheriff's department, 1 of them actually be embedded in the DA's office, 2 pretrial case managers, which are currently ARPA funded. They're within Justice Support Services, so it's making a permanent funding for that. 2 support staff, 1 within Justice Support Services, 1 within the District Attorney's Office, 2 deputy clerk of courts for the clerk of court's office, 1 CHIPS attorney, which will actually be within Corporation Counsel, and then CHIPS cases, Child and Protective Services. Something like that, huh?
Children in need of protection and services.
Okay. So it moves the CHIPS cases from the district attorney's office to an attorney within Corporation Counsel. So the district attorney can focus on felony cases and other cases. It's one of the things that can be moved by state law. And then 2 co-responders. So we currently have co-responders that are ARPA funded through HHS that would change their funding to a permanent source also. It also accounts for vehicles and initial uniform costs for the new deputies. So $3.5 million, it's a lot of money, but it is the only mechanism that the county has in order to catch up to where we should be with the growth of the county. So this referendum asked the voters at the next April ballot if they would support that, and that's what we would do with the money.
Questions, Supervisor Counter?
After listening to a lot of the testimonials in the past with, through the sheriff's department and other parties that are being impacted by this, the need is definitely there. They've definitely spoken for the need. One of the questions I guess I have with this though is what the impact is. Have you been able to give like a rough calculation as to the levy impact per, say, per 100,000 or something like that?
Yeah, this really is for 2024, and so, I mean, we don't know yet exactly what the equalized value be, which is, the denominator for that equation. What I can tell you is that it's a 7.9% increase in the levy amount. We've been averaging 6 to 8%, so in that range of equalized value growth. So if the equalized value grows, which will be measured on January 1 of 2023 for this denominator for that equation, then the tax rate actually won't go up at all. And when we went over the list of requests, we pared it down to this level, in part because I think this is a level that has less of an impact for the taxpayers based upon the tax rate analysis. So it'll be close, is what I'm saying. But 7.98% in the total levy is what the increase amounts to.
Supervisor Otino?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's no secret here, I've been a proponent of this additional police here for probably 2.5 years at least while I was on this board. I think it's critical to business. I think it's critical to the safety of our community. And on the second note of that, you know me, I am an anti-tax person. I mean, we've had this conversation regarding the wheel tax, and I'm going to support this. I'm going to support this one. It's hey, all the way, because I think it's imperative with the growth of the community, and we are woefully low in deputies out there in the field. So that's my 2 cents, and I did allude to the fact I may put signs up on supporting it on my Bronco. So,
Supervisor Shirley?
I will echo that I also agree with Supervisor Otino
that we have the need, and the sheriff needs our support in hiring more additional officers. However, my worry is that if we agree today to send it to referendum, we may not get the outcome that we're looking for. So I'm proposing that we wait on doing a referendum, and we use Ken's favorite one-time money, I know, that'll get us by with maybe half of what the sheriff needs for now, get us through a year and a half, and then go on this referendum when the economy hopefully is better, and that we will have more of the support to do that. I know we have talked about before that the building building bonding, we're making interest on that. I would propose that we use the interest money on that bonding to go back into KIP, and we move it from KIP to fund this for 2 years.
So it was that a motion that you're making to amend the resolution, or?
I think we need more discussion on it. I'd like it to go back to committee to consider what I'm talking about. I think we have, according to the administrator, we have time to do this, and before we have our deadline for when this resolution needs to be on for the ballot. So I'd like to make a motion for this to go back to committee.
And second by Supervisor Hanson. What is the time frame for the April?
Yeah, we would need to approve, if we're going to hit the April ballot, we would need to approve this by the January county board. So we have until next month, so there's a little bit of time. Yeah, I don't remember the dates when they fall in January.
Public protection is the 5th.
And county board is. So it would require a special public protection meeting so that we could get it back on. And I think Supervisor Burning was suggesting December, which date was that, 25th?
Only if you bring the Chinese food.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to send this back to the Public Protection Committee, and there's been a second, and so that's what our discussion should be on right now. Supervisor Hanson?
Yeah. I'd request that a crime study that looks very, very thoroughly at what we've experienced in terms of the last 20 years, very detailed, numbers-driven. What have we seen? What type of crime? What type of adjudication? And we can extrapolate from that what our needs are. I know that our sheriff's deputies are working mandatory 12-hour shifts. I know that they're being ground down to a nub, but do we need 8? What can we look at in terms of numbers driven? Maybe we can get by with 6. Maybe we can get by with 4. I think we may be doing a knee-jerk expenditure here, and to be going to referendum with these expectations without doing good analysis is perhaps hasty. I don't like to do anything hastily. And I don't mean any disrespect, Bob. I don't mean any disrespect, Ken. But I would like to be doing this with data. Do we have time to do that?
I believe a lot of that analysis has been done.
Is this pertaining to sending this back to committee?
That's the motion.
Yeah, is this discussion in that realm of sending it back to committee?
Yes.
Because it sounds more like a directive.
That's a reason why.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to augment the question that Supervisor Hanson was raising, the CJCC, through its criminal law subcommittee, had asked the Justice Support Services to take the lead in preparing a statistical study on the evolution of, I'll just say, all things involving the justice system, including criminal cases. And it would also involve, let's say in the sheriff's case, the input to the system as well as the outputs to the system. And Phil Gawley is working hard on that. And we just met 2 days ago and had an update from him at the criminal law subcommittee. And our expectation is we'll get a 95% report in January, but we won't meet again until mid-January. And so that study is underway, but it wouldn't be timely for our consideration early in January.
I'd like to ask Sheriff Knutson if he wouldn't mind addressing the board to provide a little more background. My understanding is that there's a logic behind the 8 deputy number, and it's not just plucked out of the air.
Yeah, thank you. So the reason we came up with the 8 deputies was because of the 12-hour shifts, it would be 2 more per shift. So right now, our minimum level that we work at on patrol is 4 per shift, up to 6 per shift, depending upon PTO or injury, time off, stuff like that. So that's where we came up with the 8, was 2 people per shift, coming up with that. Jail, same thing. With 4, it would be 1 per shift. So that's where we came up with those numbers.
I think I can also, and I think we discussed this at the public protection meeting when this issue was introduced. So we looked at statistically the number of cases that have been referred to the district attorney's office, because that's available through the state website. So the number of total cases, if you look over the last 15 years, the number of deputies we have, it's kind of the time frame I looked at, the number of total cases is up slightly. But the number of felony cases is up dramatically, and the number of other cases is down. So what that tells me is that there's a capacity issue. The deputies can only respond to so many calls and handle so many cases. So they end up having to prioritize the felony cases, which are the ones that get referred to the district attorney's office. And so they're not doing some of the other things. That's where increasing the capacity of the sheriff's department to match the capacity of our population is what's driving this and what makes sense. So is it 8? I don't know. I don't know that any statistical analysis is going to tell you the right number of deputies to get, though. The reasoning behind it is the way the sheriff explained it. It's 2 per shift.
Supervisor Barkalow.
And this might be a good question for the sheriff, but with Minneapolis seeing officers leaving the force in droves, counties and states that are putting up incentives to poach officers from departments like Minneapolis and St. Paul, have we considered doing any investigation on what are the students going into police work right now? What are I guess what's the crop of students coming out of schools like that at this point?
Can I make a point of order? Would they consider removing their motion to send it back to committee, since we're actually discussing the motion on table? Because we're not really discussing putting it back to committee. We're discussing the actual motion of 8 officers and everything in there. So I
think part of it is it worthy of sending back? Do we have enough data, or do we need to gather more data and do more analysis back in the committee? And I think so. You're right. We're on the fringe, but I would like to let the discussion continue, and will give us better information as to whether or not it really should go back to the committee or not. And if you'd like to address Supervisor Barkalow's question.
I think as how I understood the question was, what are we seeing for individuals going into schooling, the profession, and are we seeing any residual of those leaving the Twin Cities area? We're actually very fortunate here in that we will be at full staff. We have one in training right now. Our patrol will be at full staff. Our corrections we have 3 on training, and then we'll be at full staff. We were 15 down about a year and a half ago. And we're becoming more and more stable. As for the profession itself, I just went to several graduations of people that we had put through recruit school. The classes are full in western Wisconsin. I'm not saying that they are anywhere else. And Minnesota, as we've all seen, is a whole different entity. So, but we are still very fortunate in this county with the staffing we have and the resources that we still draw upon.
Supervisor Carlson?
I would also suggest that it'll help retention if our officers who are a bit overworked today know that help is coming. If we can show them that more staff is going to be hired, so hopefully decrease their workload a little bit to be more reasonable, it'll be helpful.
Supervisor Shirley?
Just to clarify, I want to make sure that everybody understands what I was talking about. My motion to bring it back to committee is to try to get them funding now, not maybe in 5 months. That gets them what they need now. And that's my main focus, is that if we can find that, which I think we can, find that revenue source, we can get that to them now. We can go to this referendum later, instead of trying the referendum now in a bad economy, maybe not getting it, and then saying in 2 years, let's try again, because that looks really bad.
Supervisor Adams?
I think the people need to be aware of what's going on, that we need this now. There is not going to be a better time to talk about spending money, as we found out with the expansion of the building here, and to try to, cobble together something when we just need to bring it before the people, let them decide up or down. And if it's down, then we can look at some other options maybe, but it's all going to be short term. We need something long term for the growth that we know is coming.
Other discussion on the motion to send this resolution, or the referendum, back to committee? Supervisor Anderson.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Supervisor Adams, where if we do this this thing where we try to fund it for a year or two, and then all of a sudden our referendum's turned down, and we can't afford to maintain the staffing levels through other means, then that would be much worse and actually probably hurt morale more than if the resolution were shot down in the spring. And that's my thoughts on it.
Other comments? Supervisor Ramberg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm thinking we could do both. In regard to meaning move this resolution forward now and continue to look for alternative revenue sources or some funding for the sheriff as we go. Then we're prepared for, if it, heaven forbid, if it does fail, we've at least thought about it and have some ideas moving forward. So that would be my 2 cents worth.
Other comments? Okay, let's vote on the motion to send this resolution back to the Public Protection Committee. Okay, that motion fails. We're now back to the original resolution for the referendum. Are there any other comments before we vote? Supervisor Burning.
Okay, which positions were the ARPA-funded positions?
Yep, so there are 4 positions that are currently funded by ARPA through 2020. 2 of them are through 2023 and 2 of them are through 2024. So they are within Justice Support Services, 2 of the pretrial case managers. Those are the 2 that are funded through 2023. And then there's 2 positions within HHS. They are the co-responders that are funded through 2024 currently with ARPA dollars.
Okay, with that being said, I'm going to ask that we consider, or I'm going to make a motion that we pull those 4 positions, or those 4 spots out of this referendum and put those positions both back to the 2 that are with HHS presently, put those back over there, and take the 2 pre-case trial managers and let's put those back into public protection. And the reason I say that is because we're taking extra monies that came from ARPA, one-time dollars that we always talk about, and we are now putting it as another tax on top of another tax that they're already paying. So if we're going to take ARPA-funded positions and we're going to ask our taxpayers to make them permanent, we should have it within the confines of what our levy already is given. So that's my logic behind that. So that's my motion, is to move those back, those four, 2 and 2, one to HHS committee to figure out how to fund that permanently then, and the other one in the other pre-case trial managers, put that back into public protection to have them find a means to fund that permanently within the regular levy instead of going to our taxpayers for extra. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
Supervisor Lynn, second. Okay, let's discuss this amendment. Supervisor Shirley?
Just a point of clarification. Since these positions are funded through 2023 and 2024, are you saying that they need to find funding at the end of the ARPA funding or now?
That's a great question. So to clarify, my motion is that these would not be funded through the referendum. These would be sent back to each committee to figure out how to permanently fund them once the ARPA dollars are no longer coming in.
Supervisor Anderson.
Can we have the chair speak to the helpfulness or the effectiveness of these 4 positions, specifically the co-responders, because I know that was something that was supposed to be a trial or a test to see how effective or helpful they were?
Yeah, it would be the sheriff or our HHS director, Bob Rohr.
Yeah, he may have a bit more for statistical of how many times they're used, or maybe not. Sorry to put him on that spot. I did see the number once before, and they are being used quite often. And I think they're being used effectively. I know the staff appreciate that quick response, that face-to-face. I think it is a good program. If we lost that in a couple of years, I think that would hurt us. I think it would hurt citizens that are getting that quick response, that ability to seek resources and maybe divert from a trip to Winnebago or a trip on a mental health commitment. I think they've been very beneficial for us.
Supervisor Burning?
So the reason I bring this up is because we consistently talk about how one-time dollars should not be used for positions to hire people. Now, granted that it sounds as if these positions are something that is necessary. And with that being said, I do believe it is on us as elected officials to find a way to have it within the means of what we are given to us by our taxpayers, like not to go above and beyond. We're already going to ask them for a lot of money in a bad time, and these have time before their monies expire. So with that being said, I want to support this referendum. I feel like we need to try to find as much of this within what is already given to us by our neighbors as possible before we go to them for even more.
Supervisor Leaf?
I have a question. If this comes to an April referendum, maybe Ken, you can speak to when this will actually happen. And I think this referendum, as it's originally positioned, would be for us to fund those positions moving forward. And I would support that for all of these positions. I think you heard from the sheriff that we all know mental health is a huge issue. If we can do some of these upstream tactics with the pretrial case managers and also the 2 co-responders, perhaps we can keep people out of needing to go to Winnebago or in jail, which isn't where they need to be. We have a jail, we don't have a mental health facility in this county. So can you speak to the timing at which this would take effect and how it relates to the funding sources, and then whether or not this referendum would support those positions moving forward, which I think is what Supervisor Burning is looking for?
Yeah, when we funded these positions with one-time money, you guys always hear me say you don't want to do that, but we were given a whole bunch of money, and what the county board elected to do was to try out a few things. And so there's a number of positions through HHS that we're testing, two of which are these co-responders. The Justice Support Services was a brand-new department that we were trying to create and form. We didn't know how many pretrial case managers would be necessary, so we just elected to fund temporarily two of them through the ARPA dollars to determine whether that was the right staffing needs. So I'll start with Justice Support Services. I can tell you that that is the right staffing needs. Really, they want more staff, but the pretrial case managers they have is probably the minimum that they need in order to handle the workflow of the number of people that are running through our system. And so their ARPA dollars were only through 2023. This would start with the 2024 budget. So this mirrors up exactly, without any overlap at all, changing the funding source from one-time money to a permanent funding source. So if not this mechanism, we have to find another funding source to do that, either through cutting of other expenses or other revenues, which there aren't any other revenues. Now, on the two co-responders, we are funded through those through 2024 through the ARPA dollars. They had actually asked for 4 co-responders based upon the numbers they have right now. They think the right number should be 4. This gives us the opportunity to make a decision at the end of 24, at the end of 23, and then again really at the end of 24, whether you wanted to go to 4 with this, if this would be 2 new co-responders or this would just replace the funding for that. That gives you the flexibility to make that choice. But either way, at the end of 2024, you're going to have a funding source for the co-responders if that program is going to continue on. And there are not a lot of other options available to us to fund positions, and so this was the vehicle to make those permanent.
Supervisor Adams.
I'd like to propose that we keep it as is. I think this is a holistic system that our duty experts can say that this is what's going to work upstream and downstream. I have a stepdaughter who just went from Goodhue County Sheriff over back to the city of Red Wing. I went out with her on a ride along, and I can tell you, once you get outside of the lights of the city, it's doggone lonely out there by yourself. And I fully support this. Again, we ought to bring it back to the citizens, and we should let them make this decision and go from there.
Okay, one last comment, Supervisor Ramberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also think it would be helpful if maybe Administrator Witt could share with us that there was a larger number than this, and the committee, along with staff, whittled it down to this number. And these were those that were, I felt, very thoughtful in selecting these positions. And thank you, Mr. Administrator, for sharing that this does bring one of the strategies, those temporary positions, to full-time, and that would be one of the options in it. So with that said, if you could share that with us, and I just wanted to bring that up as a point. Thank you.
Yeah, well, what you just said, yeah, that's true. So we did start with 45 positions, and I think we're at 23 here. So we cut it almost in half from what the original list was of all the needs that the county has, and we narrowed it down to where we thought the highest priorities were that we thought that the voters would support.
Okay, now I think we're ready to vote on the amendment to the resolution to pull 4 positions from the referendum. And those 4 would be, can we review those real quickly?
Yeah, it'd be the elimination of the 2 pretrial case managers and the 2 co-responders, which would then, I would adjust the dollar amount on it, obviously, corresponding
So
to
we're
that.
voting on eliminating those 4 from the referendum. And that motion fails. We're back to the original resolution. Any further discussion? I think we're ready to vote. Please. And that passes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the next business item. We'll try to wrap up here. Resolution in support of increased county child support funding. I believe this also came from Public Protection, or a motion to approve Supervisor Osnes. We have a second, Supervisor Carlson. Who would be volunteer to provide a little?
Yeah, this is a resolution basically lobbying for the increased county child support funding. So if the state is listening to us at all, this tells them the reason why, as spelled out in the resolution. It would be effective for the 2023-2025 state fiscal budget. They have lots of money, so they should start sharing.
Comments or questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on this resolution. Okay, thank you. That passes. Okay, the last business item is resolution amending some personnel policies and procedures in the handbook. Do we have a motion for that resolution? Supervisor Van Summeren, second. Supervisor Counter. Who would like to provide a summary? I don't know if Audrey's here or not.
Audrey's here. Salary administration policy.
I'll get the right one today. So the updates to this policy really dealt with separating the promotion and the different types of promotions that are available to employees and how we then pay those types of promotions. So we created an open requisition promotion versus a career progression promotion. Open requisition, treated just like a regular new hire, would be just a salary recommendation by the hiring manager to the HR department, versus career progression is such as if we have a PSA 1 moving to a PSA 2. They've either earned additional credentials or have been in the in that position for a specific length of time that allows them to progress to the next level. So those currently, we are treating those as if they go up a grade for career progression. There isn't much of a pay incentive to move up to that next level. We're just moving them to the next pay step that is closest to their current wage, and sometimes that can be just a matter of cents. So we wanted to make sure that we are giving some type of incentive to learn those additional skills or get those extra credentials to move up the step scale. So we wanted to add a 5% increase to the career progression when employees promote due to earning those extra credentials. And then we just updated for annual step increases, just clarified some language of who is eligible for step increases and who isn't, and if they aren't, when they would become eligible in the future. So any questions?
Supervisor Hanson.
Is this going to help in the future to alleviate or deal with the compression issue?
It typically kind of keeps everybody the same as what we are doing now, just at a higher rate, which I believe is a more fair market rate for those types of promotion opportunities. It shouldn't create any additional compression issues.
It's more of a retention issue, so it helps with retention more than anything else. So once you've learned these extra skills, if we only give you a couple pennies extra for the extra skills, well, then you're going to take those skills and go somewhere else and make more money. So that's where this policy change is coming into effect.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we're ready to vote. There we go. Okay, thank you, Audrey. I'm not going to go there. We could.
If the chairman will recognize me.
Supervisor Fiedler?
We were just talking about options on the resolution to support the Constitution and what we could do to make it the sort of resolution that we could all support, but that was meaningful. And right now, we've referred it back to committee. And the committee will do its very best to consider it, debate it, discuss it, and come back to this board. A parliamentary option we have, if we wanted to exercise it, would be for somebody who voted no on the motion to refer can ask for a reconsideration of that motion to refer. As it happened, Chairman Long and myself voted no on that, and so we could ask the body if you'd like to reconsider that return to the committee. If we did do that, then the motion could come back up, and the question would be, well, we went through several amendments that were all ties. But we also, I think, when we were posed the question, do we all support the Constitution? We all supported it. So I think we all would like to vote positively on that, but there are some things in the way it's worded now that have caused some of us to have second thoughts on the language that we'd vote on. So, sometimes it's not possible to mix coffee and tea. You just have to agree that there's going to be differences of opinion. Sometimes you can make that coffee and milk be a very good drink. So if we were to do what I had a motion to reconsider, and it was adopted, and if we raised the original resolution again, and if there were a single amendment, Supervisor Leaf had raised an amendment that would have deleted paragraphs 2 and 3. Paragraph 3, I think, is it just says we support what the Supreme Court has done. And it talks about, in this context, the right to bear arms, which they've done in 2008 and 2010 in the Heller and McCormick decisions. It's absolutely clear-cut. I think what excites a lot of people is the language of the second paragraph, which, although it's correct in what it says, uses language that some people read into it as being fraught with potential for mischief. If that paragraph weren't there, I think the resolution still maintains 100% of its integrity and its purpose. And so I just throw that out as a thought. And I'm not quite sure if I'm going to make that motion to reconsider or not, but
we have a clarification.
We have a clarification.
So the motion to reconsider can only be brought by a supervisor who is on the prevailing side of the initial motion. So it would have to, it couldn't be Supervisor Long or Supervisor Fiedler. It would have to be one of the other supervisors that voted yes to send it back to committee. That supervisor could make a motion to reconsider, and it would be a second and debated, and then the body could reconsider it today if that motion passes. But it only can be brought, that motion to reconsider can only be brought by a supervisor that was on the prevailing side.
So it'd be the prevailing side of sending it back to committee.
Correct.
Can we have discussion on this, or?
There has to be a motion.
There has to be a motion first, if someone wants to have a motion to reconsider. Until the motion to reconsider is on the floor, yes.
So there would have to be a motion by someone who voted in favor of sending it back to the committee to reconsider.
I did a shot anyway. I'll make a motion to reconsider.
Motion to reconsider, is there a second? Supervisor Barklow.
I got a question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, so now we will discuss the motion to reconsider sending the motion back to committee. So this is to determine whether or not it should be back on the board floor. So basically, the motion to reconsider, sending it back to committee.
Why are we taking this up now and we didn't do it at the time that this was on the agenda? I mean, we're totally at the end, and now you're going back to the first thing that was on the agenda. It doesn't make sense.
I allowed Supervisor Fiedler to bring the issue up. Supervisor Otino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As divisive and all the different public comments and emails, I think if we take this up now, it's going to look to the community and to our public that we're doing this underhandedly. I agree, if we were going to do that, we should have done it when we had it on the floor in the first place. I strongly oppose doing this at this point. Thank you.
Supervisor Carlson.
I also strongly oppose it. You heard quite a few people say that they already felt like we were rushing it and not giving public time. And for us they left thinking that it was going back to committee and they have time to look at it and give comment to supervisors. We're taking that away from them. So I would strongly oppose it also.
The author of the resolution has opposed it. I will withdraw my motion.
Does anybody object to the withdrawal of the motion? Then the motion can be withdrawn.
Okay, motion withdrawn. We're moving on. Any requests for future agenda items? I'd like to at least mention that Supervisor Burning had brought up his request for a review of our COVID response. That is in progress, and we should be hearing something within the next couple months. County Clerk's report, correspondence, we have none. Okay, announcements. In this little category, of course, I'm not permitted to enter into the discussion of our business items. I'd like to make a request, if I may. Since I've been on the board, there have been several symbolic type resolutions that have come to the board on a variety of different topics. And whether I agreed or disagreed with the topic, I've always been against symbolic resolutions because they have no impact whatsoever on the citizens of the county. And it's our job to make sure that we're addressing and using our efforts and our resources to addressing the critical issues that affect our citizens on a day-by-day basis. We had stellar examples in our agenda today from District Attorney and our Sheriff's Office and Public Protection. These are the things that impact our citizens every day. Symbolic resolutions do not. And we ate up a tremendous amount of time today, riled a lot of people up in the public for nothing, for no good at all. And I would respectfully ask that you consider not bringing any further symbolic resolutions to the board. Thank you for listening. Otherwise, Merry Christmas. And have a happy holiday. Hope you enjoy your family, your friends, travel safe, and we will see you next year. We're adjourned. 11:09.